All right. I use frustrating. You use sloppy. Overall, after the game, I caught some of Jim Montgomery audio. I caught that via social. After we did our post game, we had some on Nesson, and then I caught it on social. But you were downstairs, and you could hear his perturbedness, if that's a term. Another way of saying, I feel like he's pissed off. But you were down there, bud. What do you think? What did you make of the game, and how did it feel afterwards?
Yeah, he was certainly hot. I sit in the room when he does those interviews, and you get anytime a loss, I just sit in the corner and quietly and like I'm not there.
Like
I
a
get
kid
it.
in school that doesn't want to, you don't want to be
maybe
called on.
maybe he'll say hi to me, maybe he won't. It's not a big deal. I see him at the rinks otherwise, so I can see him off business hours. So I don't take offense to it. Today was definitely not there's no welcomes today. He came in hot, and he was more than happy to talk about the lack of battle from his team. Embraced it and went looking to make that point publicly on top of what I'm sure he was screaming about in the dressing room. So yeah, not happy. Probably frustrated that this Florida Panther team that was down their two best players took it to them the way that they did.
Yeah.
And again, just at certain times outcompeted and then to the sloppiness part. I mean, the Bruins basically gave them 2 goals, if not and then if not more with the penalties early on. So I think it'll be I think it's coaches, we talk about it all the time. Coaches use games to get people's attention, and that'll be an easy one for Jim Montgomery and the coaching staff before they head out west to grab guys' attention.
Florida Panthers had lost 2 games coming into this one. They were already down last game. Barkov, who's out look, I know he's a rival guy, but let's hope it's only 2 to 3 weeks. I love watching this guy play. I want him back in the lineup. He's also supposed to go represent or play for the Panthers in Finland coming up, but hopefully he'll be back for that. He wasn't there. And then Matthew Tkachuk out for a week, they're saying, for a week with an illness. So they must know what it is, that illness. Anyway, they lost their previous 2 games, and they weren't exactly well played by the Florida Panthers. So the Bruins had to know, right, that they were going to come out breathing fire. Like this was a get right game for the Florida Panthers, but yet you're down 2 players of your top 6 that are so integral to your success. The other players for the for the Panthers stepped up. Reinhart, Lundell in particular, they scored the goals, but they were really, really good as well. I thought defensively, the Mikkola, he played an aggressive game. He was big. They were blocking shots, etc. Why do you think, was it just a matter of having the focus of the Bruins in front of them that just got them righted? And why do you think they were able to? Kind of a lame question, but last game is, and the Bruins top guys weren't able to, because the Bruins got an unbelievable performance again from their fourth line, from their depth guys, and not enough top guys came through when they had their full lineup.
Yeah, the fourth line is great. They are clicking. They have confidence. They're skating very quickly. They're not thinking out there at all. They're just going forward. And they scored in the first 5 minutes. The Bruins did. You feel like everything's in a good spot there. It's physical.
Should have been.
And then you have the bad giveaway behind the net, and that's all Florida needs, is just to get that, and then they get the power play goal. So like 2 kind of self-inflicted wounds in the first period that they just didn't play clean enough. They had more opportunities to score. They outshot them 10-5 or something like that, 11-5 in the first. And so again, it's just those shifts, and we've said it over the playoffs the last couple of years against this team. And you if you don't pay attention to the details on every shift, they find a way to make you pay. It's very simple. Again, the giveaway behind the net, that's a goal. And then Carlo gets too high on the PK for 2 seconds. 2 seconds, he gets taken out of position, and Reinhart rips it over Swayman's shoulder, and now you're down 2-1. You're chasing the game, which we know is hard for the Bruins against this Florida Panther team, because they just continue to put pressure and they continue to open up and get opportunities off the rush, which they did in the second period.
is Sam Reinhart not given enough perhaps recognition, despite the fact that he had 57 goals
Yeah.
last year? And here he is again doing it. You know, I don't hear him ever referred to as a sniper. He's a great goal scorer. I think he's a freaking sniper, buddy. Like, that was a snipe. You know, he came
Yeah,
to
no, smart.
inside. That was a real snipe, top corner, blocker side. And it feels like here's a guy who's only done it one time, 50 plus. It feels like this guy's just found another level that I don't know if I'm qualified to say I didn't see, because I never, maybe, regardless, it feels like he's going to do it again. Just the way he carries himself out there.
I mean, if he gets 50 again, he won't be flying under the radar. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't see 57 coming out of him. Never would have guessed it. Never, probably didn't pay attention enough to the fact that he did it. And then again, the fact that he's scoring these special team goals again so early in
Yeah.
the season. It's yeah, he's found his thing. He's found his thing in this league. He's a high pick and he's always been good, but he's certainly figured it out here in Florida the last couple of years.
Yeah. And listen, he's scoring goals at key times, right? And he's scoring. I mean, that shorthanded goal changes the tenor of the game. The goal that you mentioned off the power play to make it 2-1, it didn't feel good, but it didn't feel like, oh shit, right? Like, at least to me, it felt like, all right, power play. But then that shorty and Poitras not getting the puck deep. And again, I thought Poitras played pretty well through his gig, but this play, just like Lowry's mistake, he gets out battled. It's a positional 1v1 type battle. Monty talking about that. He seals him, takes it, goes, and then Poitras is accelerating or so much to try and get back. He ends up running into Swayman as well. And the guy, Reinhart, just stops in front of the net and does again, smart thing. His stick is on the ice, puck comes right to him.
No, exactly. And listen, this is part of being young, right? Like, we hear it all the time, right? Like, oh, I want the young guys to play. We want Lowry in there. Oh, we want well, they give up goals. Like, that's why they don't usually play in the NHL. That takes them a while to do that, because young guys make mistakes, and when they do, it ends up in the back of the net, and that's frustrating, and you have to kind of roll with that. So you don't expect Poitras to make that mistake again. I think he learned from it. That's pretty embarrassing, especially because he ends up in the net while like, that's just as bad as it gets for a power play shift for the kids. So you learn from that, but those are part of the growing pains that Florida doesn't have to go through, because they have a bunch of old guys that have a bunch of experience, and the Bruins are now kind of on the other side of that, where they've been the team that is old and grizzled, and that's where they're trying to get to. So those two plays change the game. They do.
They do. I think it was Swayman after the game, partner, that was asked if Florida is in their head. And it was a no answer. Like, one of those one words, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a scrum buster, that question. That's
okay.
the full on scrum buster. Nowhere to go from there.
Fair enough. But, I also don't blame the reporter, whoever it was, for asking it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can discuss. Is Florida in their head? Meaning, are they just better right now? Overall, they just deeper, a little bit better. Not to say the Bruins can't beat them regularly. I mean, the Bruins aren't going to beat them if they don't have production, especially from top guys. They're just not. No team's gonna, for Christ's sake, right? But does Florida? And the reason I asked that, and we can get it, we're gonna get into all the physical play and the penalties and all that stuff. But from a look, man, you've been in the locker room so much. I've been there too. But you there's a vibe. You get it. You understand it. You never, as a player, right? You never want to admit that another team may have you, right? You never want to admit. And I get that too, because you want to make sure that your confidence stays up. You never try to think negative thoughts as well. I get all that. But right now, Bud, does it appear to you that Florida just has a confidence about them playing the Bruins that the Bruins just can't get to ramp up? Yes or, I mean, when I say yes or no, meaning let's talk about that.
I think the Bruins are trying a little bit too hard right now against the Florida Panthers. At
Yep.
least these two games. These two games, there's no question. This week they tried too hard against the Florida Panthers. They didn't play their game, and they got too wrapped up in the physicality. And then of course it's AJ Greer hitting past it like that. That is bullshit, and that pisses everyone off. And if AJ Greer was on any other team, that same thing would have happened out there today. I don't think that was a Florida Panther thing. I think that was an AJ Greer thing.
Okay.
Where again, he's not my favorite guy, and he wasn't my favorite guy here. I thought he took cheap shots when he was here, and he took another cheap shot tonight. He was more than happy to fight Pavel Zacha. Like,
Right.
it's so soft and it's so phony.
Right.
And I think that would have bothered them no matter what. But I think
Kastelik wanted to try and get him going again.
Yeah, and he doesn't do anything.
And he wanted no part of it.
And he got Kastelik when Kastelik wasn't ready last week and said, "I already fought you." Again, that's his game. So I think, again, I guess the one thing is, like, you're not going to see them till January now. So it's kind of like irrelevant almost.
Is that good or bad, or does it not even matter?
I don't think it matters. I think it's a good thing because they don't have to talk about it, or again, they're not going to play this group again for a while. And, and until they beat them in the playoffs, and that's what Montgomery said before the game, like, these guys are the top dogs. They're the defending champs. They've won the Eastern Conference 2 years in a row. So yeah, they've got everybody's number right now. And until you knock them off in meaningful games, that doesn't change. So I think stylistically they're tough for the Bruins because they shoot everything and they play quick and they cause chaos. And the Bruins like to make plays and they like to have possession. And I think that way, stylistically, it's really hard for the Bruins to create turnovers and counterpunch because of the way they play. And that's what stands out for me.